Hello and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
And my name is David Howe.
And with us here,
we got Ryan Upchurch.
Hey guys. Gentlemen, Ryan Upchurch in the house. How you doing, buddy?
Doing real well.
Good,
doing real
good.
well.
You are here to talk about video game movies with Sonic the Hedgehog coming out pretty soon. We're going to take a look back on all the great video game movies that have been released throughout the years.
There are countless, hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Of all exceeding quality.
Strap in. Also in today's episode, we're talking Animal Crossing, Outer Worlds delay. There's a quote on it. It says, airport thing. Nintendo's going to be at airports. Have Nintendo lounges.
I can't wait.
How are you guys doing?
I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Did you guys watch the Oscars?
I did not watch the Oscars, but I did watch Eminem's performance.
Oh yeah,
which was very weird.
That was the weirdest part of the Oscars for sure. I mean, I like Eminem, but I was like, why?
No one knew what to do.
We'll have reaction gifs for years just from that performance. I'm very excited for that. It was a good Oscars. You should watch it.
Yeah, I wrote the Oscars off, and then everything happened as I would have wanted it to. Then I regret that now.
It was nice to finally have a good movie win Best Picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog was that. It was the only time a movie that hasn't come out yet has won the Oscar for Best Picture.
Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie that's releasing in 2020, it won the 2019 Best Picture.
Speaking of Sonic, we've got a meetup coming up this Sunday. If you're listening to this the week this podcast comes out.
Sunday, February 16th.
That's correct. We're all going to be going to if you're here in Austin, if you're not in Austin, I'm sorry, but you can watch it at the same time and feel like you're with us. We are going to be at the Alamo Drafthouse Mueller at 7 p.m. watching the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. You have to buy your own tickets. We're not supplying those for you.
We're in row 5. So if you want to sit by the fellow Switch Heads, we're in row 5.
I just checked the seating arrangement, and so far we're the only ones that have bought tickets for that screening. It's just a bunch of Switch Heads right in the middle of the theater.
And David, what you were saying is before the movie, we're going to be hanging out at Oddwood Ales at 3 p.m. where we'll be playing Smash Brothers Ultimate and, of course, Killer Queen Black.
Yeah, I cannot wait. That's going to be a blast. Oddwood is a great place, very gaming friendly bar. So yeah, that'll be fun. If you've always listened to our voices and wanted to meet us in person, now is your chance.
We will put all of the details on our social media across the board.
Oh yeah.
Twitter, Instagram, all the things.
Very good.
Also, we did an episode last week where we ranked all the consoles, and it rankled some feathers. Chris McKeever on Facebook called us 12-year-olds.
Well, Chris McKeever is a fucking asshole. So.
That's why we don't play Disney Susun Festival. Because he's a bully.
And at work, one of my coworkers who listens similarly made a similar kind of comment to me, actually. He's like, y'all are dumb.
You know, I think that actually Chris McKeever made that comment that we were 12-year-olds as he was wandering around Disneyland by himself. So, look in the mirror, bud.
And I'm still reeling from it. I thought that N64 was way more prominent on my rankings than I would have had number one. So I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but I was reeling when y'all
stuck it at the bottom.
To the ground.
Yeah. There was somebody that commented on like our Facebook post where you're like, what do you think is best? Where David, you said that, and somebody was like, N64. I was like, oh, I hope they don't listen.
N64 is a great console. It's just not as good as the other ones.
I mean, what games does N64 have?
Yeah.
I think we went over that list. Yeah, so we'll move on to the news. You guys ready to move on?
Yeah, I think I'm ready to move on to the news.
Let's move on. Just Pokemon Home is now available. I don't really have any news about this. I guess you can download it on your Switch. And
yeah, I mean, just as we were sitting
down
to record this, it released. So I've now downloaded it on my Switch. I haven't opened it yet, but if you've been waiting for Pokemon Home, it's out right now. Go check it out. It's on your Switch. Should be coming to phones shortly.
And also, just new news that happened right as we're recording this. There are some new NES and SNES games available for Nintendo Switch Online.
Or they will be soon.
Or will be, rather. They were just announced. Good call. That were just announced will be available probably in a couple weeks or whatever their schedule is. What are they, David? Because you rattled them off, and I don't know that I recognize a single one.
So these are coming out on the 19th of February, and they are some of the most famous games ever made for the Super Nintendo and the NES, including Poppin' Twinbee. That's right. We get another goddamn Twinbee game on our Switch. Smash Tennis. These are both for the Super Nintendo. And then also for NES, we have Shadow of the Ninja and Eliminator Boat Duel. Apparently some of those, this is their first time being released in the West. Do any of you care?
No, I
don't recognize these, but I'll probably play them.
Yeah?
I'll play them. I'll give them once.
I can't make that promise. I want to say that I'll play them, but I just don't know.
I don't recognize any of that.
There's a lot of Super Nintendo games that we're still waiting on to come to the subscription service, and it makes me feel like they're probably just going to re-release those as their own games.
Well, yeah, I think if a third party owns it, I think that's very likely.
Like rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on, there's a lot of Animal Crossing stuff to talk about for New Horizons. So sometime after we recorded, there was like a German download card that surfaced on the internet, which showed some information about the game, like the download size. And what really it sparked controversy about was that it indicated there's going to be no cloud saves for Animal Crossing. And that got everybody upset. And then, like on the Japanese site on Nintendo, they wrote that they have some sort of vague plans, maybe to have some sort of NSO backup if your Switch gets damaged or lost or something.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I think the reason, not that I'm excusing this, but it's not like tied to a profile, like a lot of, with the way every other game save is, it's tied to your console somehow. So
That's right. Well, the one of the weirdest things about how Animal Crossing seems to be working with their saves is that there's only going to be one island per console,
right?
Which is also in itself kind of controversial and very odd. Like no other game really does that. So there must be some weird back end thing going on. Because Animal Crossing saves are notoriously have always been really huge. Like Animal Crossing for the GameCube shipped with a memory card so that you could have it specifically for that game. So yeah, it's weird. And this is kind of strange for families with multiple children who maybe only have one Switch and want to have their own islands. I mean, it's very odd. We don't know a lot. Like I've actually tried to do my research on this topic because I wanted to come forth with the hard facts that we know, but everything is so nebulous at this point because we haven't had a Animal Crossing Direct yet. So hopefully a lot of this will be revealed, but as of now, yeah, it's looking pretty weird.
It just seems very Nintendo paternalistic, weird decision that you can't, give us options, which is what Nintendo never does, right? Like let us, because in my case, having multiple profiles on one island might make good sense. My wife and my son aren't like hardcore and it might be fun, but for like what you just outlaid, 2 9 and 10-year-olds in a house that share a Switch might fight about that or whatever.
And how does this work exactly? Like
how much space is there?
Yeah. Like, is this going to break some sort of space-time continuum? Like if you're on your profile and you build a home, is it going to then show up on the other profiles on your Switch? I have no idea how it's going to work. That's why, I'm not really confident in really reporting on it, but it's stopped me from pre-ordering so far. Cause cause I'm not sure if I want to do cause Sasha's also interested in this game. I'm really interested in this game. I don't know if we should each get our own copy, if we should just play on one console. What is going to be the best way to do this?
Yeah.
You've pre-ordered the game, right, Ryan?
No, not yet.
Okay. I thought you had.
I have.
You have.
So I'll go ahead and, then digital pre-orders went live the next day on the 7th, and I bought it right away because I only have one Switch, and like I said, it was already doesn't matter.
Right.
And I'm getting this game regardless. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, I bought it. Wow. And it's there on the home screen.
It's just blind faith in Nintendo.
And reminder that if you we do a Nintendo podcast, I'm gonna buy it even if it's messed up, so we can talk about it. But yeah, a reminder that there's no backseas if you do
that. yeah, as recent court filings have proven.
And then further, the Nintendo website and also ESRB ratings and stuff are indicating that the game has in-game purchases, which is likely just DLC. But a lot of people, with all this other controversy, were like, well, is there going to be microtransactions? But that's the same language that's used for other games that have DLC. So what that will be, obviously, there's just more questions, right? Like it's already been it's kind of hinted at. So, and we still don't know.
Yeah, and it is coming out real soon.
Yeah.
Right? Is it the 10th?
The 20th.
The 20th of March. Right.
So, but that's almost a month from now, you know?
Yeah. Are you excited about this game?
I'm really excited. I've never really played a lot of Animal Crossing, but looking to get into it.
So, then also Nintendo apologized that the coronavirus is affecting the Japanese pre-orders of the Animal Crossing themed Switch that we talked about last week. But apparently Europe and America are not affected. So that's bad news. This coronavirus thing is kind of scary, I guess.
Yeah,
Are y'all
I
scared
think
about it?
we're nearing 1,000 that have died from the coronavirus coming up. And there was like a whole cruise ship where like everyone on the cruise is infected. It's like more people per capita like are infected on that cruise than any country or like province. Ooh. So yeah, the coronavirus is pretty scary right now. I think that the reason that like America and Europe are unaffected, I know we kind of talked in the past few months about how Nintendo had been moving some of their manufacturing to, I believe, Taiwan or like a couple, or no, Vietnam.
Like
they moved to
South.
Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think those areas are still producing, but yeah, it's scary. A lot of companies are being hit by manufacturing issues in China because of the coronavirus. The Switch in general in Japan is sold out on their website, on Nintendo's website, because of the virus. And it's like, I think that's probably actually going to pretty severely affect sales in Japan pretty soon because the Switch continues to sell increasingly well there. So hopefully they figure this out and maybe they can move some shipments over from some of their other distribution centers.
Also being affected is Outer Worlds. So the Switch release, particularly, they said it's delayed because of the coronavirus. And I guess I don't know that this is related, but when they announced this, they also said that they've decided that the physical release will have cartridges, whereas before it was going to have a download code. So I guess that's one of those like, oh, sorry to hear it, but yay. Moments like for a lot of people. Yeah. It's like it was kind of weird to read like the Twitter reactions, which are like, oh, I'm so sorry for your team. And then like, awesome. You know,
work those workers to the bone. Like, give me my cartridge, baby.
So
we also finally got a single screenshot of the Outer Worlds on Switch.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys see this?
I didn't.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, it looks fine.
That's good.
Man, it was unfortunate for them because they announced the release date, and then I think like within 24 hours they were like, "It's being delayed." Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it sucks.
The Pokemon Company has like outed the source of one of the leaks for Sword and Shield. There's a Portuguese Nintendo site that's called F Nintendo, which sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. They had to guess what F stood for. They'd be like, okay, I know what the true motives are of this website.
So they're no longer going to work with this outlet in Portugal. They're not going to get any more Nintendo like review pre-release stuff. So.
That's tough for a Nintendo website.
yes. But I still don't. It didn't like release the name of the journalist, but they have apparently fired that person.
You can whittle it down. Like
Nintendo.
The information is out there.
Yeah,
there's like a whole public statement about it. Which is really weirdly uncharacteristic, I think, to just totally publicly throw someone under the bus. It's a little odd. Like it's really ruthless.
And this is separate from like the lawsuits against the like Discord or whoever leaked. So there were other leaks going on too, but this was one of the major ones. So
this is the one that like leaked the whole decks for the game, I believe. Yeah.
And then Nintendo is setting up some, I guess, I don't know if they're called Nintendo lounges. I should look that up. In airports, they're going to have some like kiosks, some sort of gaming lounges. That's what they're calling them in about 4 different airports in the U.S. Over the course of like late February to late March. It's like Chicago and Dallas and Seattle and DC. So if you're flying and you're not bringing your Switch, I guess you could play with it at one of those kiosks.
I can't wait to fly into Dallas Love Field so I can finally try the Switch.
Go ahead.
You also get some free stuff. Is you get a free Nintendo Switch luggage handle wrap. Check.
Check.
A $10 coupon to use at Target on a Nintendo purchases of $75 or more.
Okay.
I think it's somewhat smart.
David, you're not impressed.
Well, no, I'll just buy 7 copies of Starlink Battle for Atlas.
I think they've
Get $10 off.
They've identified that like this is an interesting market for them to like go after, right? Like frequent travelers, because the Switch is one of the Switch's strengths is taking it with you, and so we'll see if it works out for them. I don't know.
They've been doing this in Japan for a while. In the Tokyo airport, there's like a really big Nintendo Switch kiosk lounge area, which has been popular. Yeah, it totally makes sense. It's weird that it's like a limited thing. It's only for like a couple weeks, I think, something like that. You'd think it would maybe be a little bit longer, but
yeah.
I'm legitimately actually thinking about traveling now that you said you get free swag.
Get that luggage wrap, dude.
Yeah, dude. If I don't have that luggage wrap, am I even really a gamer?
Masahiro Sakurai's latest column in Famitsu magazine in Japan was about the Smash Ultimate and about Byleth, and the reason that people have been poorly translating it to English is he kind of acknowledges that there are a lot of Fire Emblem characters and a lot of swordsmen, and he says that in his column. And also kind of interesting in the column, he talks about how it's not really up to him that Nintendo picked the characters, which seems kind of at odds with what he said in the past, or with what's been said in the past.
Well, he said that about the DLC fighters, is that Nintendo picked all of them.
It's like they picked some and he got to pick from a list or something, is what I kind of remember, but maybe I'm misremembering.
See, I feel like that was something that people just kind of assumed.
That people made up.
Yeah, I think like the only thing that he's said on the matter is that like Nintendo has already picked all these.
Yeah.
That having been said, I call bullshit.
Well, he must have some sway, at least. Yeah.
The man clearly loves Fire Emblem.
Well, yeah, and then it goes on to talk about how he played through the like early build of the game, and it's in all of its entirety because he had to, and
So he could load the game up with spoilers.
right, where he could load his. What's really funny is that announcement where they announced Byleth. He's like, "I'm no spoilers," and then he went on to say many things, which, if you paid attention, were spoilers. But also, I thought was interesting is he said that in the next column that he writes, he's going to talk about the next fighters. Obviously, he won't like spoil who they are, but I'm curious what that means. Mm-hmm. And also translated in English, not quite so poorly because it was officially done, was the Q&A from the investor meeting that we talked about last week. Some of that was already kind of translated by sites and stuff, but they put out the full English one. Not a ton of interesting stuff, but
hit us with the highlights.
Highlights for me are that they estimate that 30% of Switch Lite owners already have a Switch. So that's like almost a third of the people that own a Switch Lite bought it as a secondary unit.
That is really interesting. And that's a higher number than I would think it would be.
I think, and I think it was even higher than that, according to their estimates before the holidays.
Right.
Which makes sense, I guess, right? Like the hardcore adopters would be the early ones, right? But like, it sounds like it's not a very fluid way to have it be a second system if it's just one person. So maybe it's a lot of like households that need a second one.
Especially if you're going to be playing Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Which this is something I actually wanted to say earlier about Animal Crossing. I think it's very weird that they are releasing an Animal Crossing Switch and then there seemingly is no way to transfer your island between consoles. I think,
and that's like if the third of the people that have Switch Lites want to use it as a secondary console or some sort of supplement, why not have a more seamless way to like have saves, especially in games like that, where like that's a game you totally want to play for just a little bit and might want to jump on whatever Switch you have available or whatever. It's weird.
The PS4 and the Vita did it better. Yeah.
They also talk a little bit about, somebody asked a question about hardware, and nobody was passing this around on the internet about sort of the future of the Switch. But when I read it, I'm like, oh, we got to talk about this. How the Switch is kind of ripe for lots of possible hardware stuff in the future. So, the Switch Pro rumors and stuff, I think they're going to be something like that eventually. You know what I mean? If there's no doubt, because he even says it, Furukawa says it in the investor meeting.
That there will be one eventually.
Well, he doesn't say that, but he's just, somebody's like, it seems like the model of the Switch is that there could be a lot of, hardware updates and stuff. And he's like, yes, that's definitely, I should find the exact bit of it, but I can't real quickly. So, but I just thought that was interesting.
I mean, there was a DS and there was a DS Lite. There's a Switch and there's a Switch Lite.
Yep.
So that means that there's going to be a Switch Eye next.
With an OLED screen.
With an OLED screen, a camera, and a little bird that can make your voice sound weird.
And then a 3 Switch.
a Switch 3s.
And then a new 3 Switch.
That didn't work.
And they also talk about making more video content with their characters and kind of expanding and using their IP and how to use their IP well, which ties into like the Mario movie and stuff, which we'll talk a little bit more about later.
Yeah, Miyamoto was saying that he really wants to see a lot more of that stuff.
Yeah, it's a really weird quote. You should read it if you haven't, because it's kind of like, well, I didn't really want there to be video content historically, but now I think it's a way to reach people. It's kind of a weird statement.
Yeah, and Miyamoto has famously been super against lending stuff out, and now he's kind of like, I think basically he's gotten really behind Super Nintendo World, like the theme park in Tokyo and what's eventually going to be in California and Florida. And I think that has just filled him with this urge to get it out there. I think like the theme park is like a passion project for Miyamoto. And it's like awakened this whole kind of thing with him. And he's probably been having really good meetings with,
Illumination.
Yeah, Illumination Studios. And I think it's just kind of lit a fire under his butt. He just wants to see his legacy solidified on the silver screen.
And there's a little bit of a eShop sale going on right now on the Switch.
There's a big ass eShop sale.
This just got announced like the day we're recording this, so I haven't had a lot of time to look at it. But a lot of games for $5 or $10 or 15.
Yeah, well, there was a eShop sale that started a few days ago, and then this one's kind of piggybacked on the last one. The one that came out today, they were recording, which is Tuesday. There's a ton of Ubisoft games on sale, a ton of Capcom games, and also a few Blizzard games as well. So you've got Diablo on sale, Overwatch. You've got Child of Light, which Patrick famously thought was so-so.
It's only $5. It's worth it for $5.
Yeah,
I guess.
More people like Child of Light than Patrick like Child of Light.
Mario Rabbids is $15.
Mario Rabbids is $15. That's a steal. Rayman Legends is $10, which is, I think, an all-time low on the Switch, and that is definitely worth getting. That's one of my favorite games on the Switch, honestly. Have you looked at these sales at all? Or?
No, I mean, that's news to me, but as an old Rayman player, it's nostalgic when I go back to that.
Have you played Legends yet?
No.
Okay, you absolutely,
so
go home and download it.
I'm leaving this podcast right now.
It's seriously one of the best platformers
It's a good platform.
I've played in the last 10 years.
I've been playing it recently.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So I really recommend that. Both the ukuleles are on sale as well. Yeah, speaking of great platformers, Impossible Lair is a great one to get. So yeah, just scroll through the eShop. I'm sure you'll find something.
And then lastly, for the news, Nintendo is going to be at PAX East on March 1st, I guess, is when that starts or when that's happening. Mm-hmm. So that one would expect they might have some games to show off or something to do there, and yet we are still sitting here on a Tuesday evening, February 11th, with no new game announcements from Nintendo.
This is now the longest drought of directs that we've ever had. The big Nintendo drought of 2020. Are you guys feeling okay?
It's rough, man.
It is rough.
I've been fooled. I was really fooled by a fake Twitter one today. A fake Twitter announcement from like Nintendo of America, where they put together a really good looking, on first glance, it's like, oh shit, there it is. Oh no, that's not it.
Yeah.
It's just a fake.
Well, hopefully tomorrow we'll get an announcement.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
The Pokemon Direct satiated me, so I was very pleased with that. So,
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm still mulling on it.
Do you think we'll be getting the Animal Crossing Direct before a general Direct? Because it's like pretty fucking soon. That game is coming out.
I feel like we're at this point we're going to get a Animal Crossing Direct and that's it.
Really?
You think so? Really?
Yeah.
And then no Direct till E3?
And then maybe a Direct sometime between March 20th and E3.
Oh man,
that'll be like an Indies.
I also am growing very jaded the longer that we don't have one. Yeah, it's weird. Because I was like in December, I was like, yeah, we'll get one in the very beginning of January. And here we fucking are.
And then here we are every week thinking, well, maybe it's this week.
Yeah. Do you know how hard it is to schedule podcast topics when we have no idea when a goddamn direct is coming? Come on, Nintendo.
We are being very like, well, maybe there'll be a direct, so let's wait and see what happens.
David right now is aggressively scratching his neck.
I got hives from all the stress.
Well, there you go. That's the news. There's no Nintendo Direct. Well, I hope this isn't dated and they announce it tomorrow. But
Yeah, well, I'll cut this out when I'm editing.
So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll go into our main focus about video game movies.
Okay.
And we're back.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about video game movies. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie is coming out this weekend, and we're going. And we thought we would dedicate this episode to talking all about video game movies. And I guess in particular, I feel like we need to say this. Like, I think we're mostly talking about like theatrical release movies, like not like direct.
I think for the most part, yeah.
Maybe we'll touch on some of that, and especially like here in America, because like I think there are lots of Japanese anime video game movies, or
I think like if there's like a Japanese feature film anime, like there was a feature film anime of Mario Brothers before the Mario Brothers movie, but nobody ever talks about that.
Right.
We're not gonna be touching that stuff.
Yeah.
Before we just get into it,
Yeah.
can I just say like how legitimately excited I am for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie? Like it started as kind of a bit, and I do like Sonic, but I'm not like a huge mega fan. But I actually cannot stop watching clips on YouTube from this movie, interviews with the cast, early reviews and impressions that I've been hearing. I'm like way ready to see this.
Early reviews and impressions are okay or positive.
They're all
positive.
Everyone that I've heard so far has been positive. Now, that having been said, whenever super fans of a franchise get these advanced screenings, it's almost always super. Like Batman v Superman, early impressions were like, it's a masterpiece, and it's like that movie sucked. And so take it with a grain of salt, obviously. Wait until the reviews come out. They're not out on Rotten Tomatoes yet.
I'd be remiss to say that I actually like Batman versus Superman, but I know I'm in the
fuck out of this
extreme
room.
minority. This is not the podcast for it. But,
Did you like Suicide Squad?
No, I hated Suicide Squad.
Man, who are you?
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts about that, but it's not the time or place.
Sure.
But yeah, so I think it's historically video game movies are bad. And so we'll kind of talk about why that is and maybe some of the best ones. And I think it's also kind of worth noting that there's like lots of different categories in this. Like first there were movies kind of about video games. Like in particular, I think of like War Games from 1983 and The Last Starfighter from 1984. And
then obviously with Nintendo.
Yep. The Wizard.
You got The Wizard.
And that came out in 89.
The Wizard, just one long commercial.
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah. Universally panned by critics for being a Nintendo commercial.
Yeah, 90 minutes. That's a straight commercial.
But I will say I have like good memories of that movie because I was like 8 years old at the time and remember loving that movie. And Mario 3!
It was made for you.
Have you watched it recently?
No.
Is
it bad?
It's not good. But like everything before the tournament, like the really young kid before the tournament, I didn't remember anything.
Right.
There's like this weird scene at an airport, the weird scene that they're at a casino and they leave the kid there. There's like tons of weird stuff that I didn't remember, but all I remember is that hype Mario 3 tournament.
Yeah, well that like was enough.
Yeah, I mean that's what sold the movie.
And Fred Savage and Jenny Lewis is
Jenny Lewis.
Yeah, she's the girl.
That's funny. There's a great gaming historian video on The Wizard that came out recently. It's definitely worth watching.
When Jenny Lewis played ACL, my Austin City Limits totem, which is the big long stick that I had on my back to like have my friends find me, was a power glove. And I was hoping so bad that Jenny Lewis, while on stage, would see my power glove, and I like jumped and moved, and she didn't see it.
I bet she saw it. She just refused to acknowledge it. She's like, I'm more than the wizard, Matt. I'm a famous musician.
We're joining the Wizard, Jenny Lewis.
And then in 1993, we had Super Mario Bros. And then there was Double Dragon. And then there was Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and a lot of forgettable movies.
Yeah.
And none of those are really that great, right? I mean, Mortal Kombat is okay.
I loved Mortal Kombat.
Let's talk Mortal Kombat first, and then we'll loop back to Super Mario Bros. Yeah, because I don't want to just gloss over that.
Yeah,
shit.
I don't either. But Mortal Kombat, I saw it in the theater. I remember I went with my family, and everybody in my family was going to see some other movie. And then me and my brother and my cousin were like, well, we'll see Mortal Kombat. It's at the same time. And it was okay.
I mean, it was ultimate camp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't trying to be anything more than that.
But that's what the original games are as well.
That's true.
So it matches that, and it feels like you're watching something that is thematically similar to the game.
Yeah. Well, and the games had were basically video of the people, it was real people put into a digital game. So it kind of felt like the game in a way. I mean, those are still probably some of the best video game movies.
I know, it's just kind of sad that it's arguably up there.
Yeah.
So what about this early era? Should we go back to Mario Brothers?
Yeah, let's talk about Super Mario Brothers real quick, because this movie has a very special place in my heart and in my childhood. But at the same time, it is an absolute fucking disaster. Have we all seen the Super Mario Brothers movie?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yes. Have you seen it, Patrick?
I feel like I have, but I don't know that I actually have seen it all the way through.
I would say watch it. But also it's hard to watch.
That's why I don't think I can go back and watch it all the way through.
I can't really call it a bad watching experience or a bad movie.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, you totally can. But it's it's unlike any movie ever made. You know what I mean? It is so weird and so out there, and it's a bad acid trip. And it's I was actually just watching a video on the making of this movie, right before I came here. And it's just the story of this is more interesting than the movie itself, for sure. It went through 20 script rewrites, the president of Nintendo at the time, Yamauchi, was really wanted it to be dark and gritty for some reason. So it would appeal to adults. But then they got cold feet and put a bunch of weird humor in it. But it's also the sets are designed by the set designer for Blade Runner. So it's got this weird dystopian cyberpunk feel to it as well. It's very bizarre. It's definitely worth seeing. John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, who played Mario and Luigi and Mario respectively, would just show up to set drunk. Everybody hated the directors. The director was a husband and wife directing duo, which never works. So it's just I really recommend checking out. Again, Gaming Historian did a great video on this, and I really recommend watching it. And you should just watch the movie because it's worth watching. For sure.
I do wonder that if Super Mario Brothers didn't have Mario stuff in it, that it might be a relatively good movie. Because I'm thinking it would be a movie. How about that?
Yeah, sure.
But games like Shadow of Mordor, which is a Lord of the Rings on a 3D stealth based game, that doesn't feel like a Lord of the Rings game. It's just Lord of the Rings skin on top of an existing game.
Sure.
Super Mario Brothers feels like Super Mario World on a dystopian Blade Runner.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what they were trying to do. It was basically, I think the directors were really adamant about their decision, and the producers wanted something different and the writers wanted something different. And all three of those different voices clashed. And then the actors showed up to set and they're like, this isn't the script that I signed up for. And they were just kind of bound to it. You know what I mean? So it's a total mess, but damned if it's not a super creative film, very unique, totally groundbreaking for the time, with at the time amazing visual effects. It was a total fucking box office bomb, which is a trend that you'll see going forward as we continue talking about video game movies.
But also, I think while I've never seen it, I have read about it a little bit and the big mess that it is. But I also think, to put it into context, it's this came out in 93 when the console wars were really big between Sega and Nintendo. And I think that maybe because Sega was really cornering that sort of we are cooler than Nintendo market.
The edgy
that
market.
was why Nintendo wanted to maybe make this a little bit more grown up and edgy, and it just didn't work.
I think they were just trying to like please everybody, and by doing that, they pleased nobody.
Right.
You know, it was like the kind of spreading yourself too thin
Yeah.
sort of situation, which again is a theme that you find in a lot of video game movies going forward. It really did set the standard for video game movies.
Yeah. So, is there any other movies in that sort of early era that anybody wants to talk about? I mean, Street Fighter or Double Dragon or anything like that.
Dude, those just felt like Mortal Kombat clones.
Every time I bring up Street Fighter, at like a party, someone's like, "Oh, the last movie that Raul Julia was in." Yeah, that's the one. But also, it's about a video game.
And then like in the early 2000s, we got like the Lara Croft Tomb Raider movies with Angelina Jolie.
They weren't terrible.
And also that's right around the time they did the Final Fantasy movie, which is an interesting discussion.
So
of its own.
Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. I loved that movie when I was a kid, and I started watching it again recently, and I fell asleep very quickly. That having been said, Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within has one of my favorite movie scores of all time. I really, really recommend checking out the soundtrack to that movie. Like, it's by Elliot Goldenthal. I actually use his music a lot at work whenever I'm editing. And I really recommend it, if nothing else, checking out that score. But I think it's streaming on Amazon Prime.
I saw that in the theater too, and I couldn't tell you a single thing about it. I don't remember any details of that movie.
Well, it's not based on any of the games.
Which I think is an interesting thing to talk about, right? Like they decided that we're going to take this movie property and make a movie, which I think is maybe an okay idea, right? So like, because I think maybe that's the problem with making video game movies, jumping ahead a little bit, is video games are about gameplay. And at first, at least, story can be helpful, but then you try to just take the story part of it and you're missing something. And so maybe
I also did a bunch of research on Final Fantasy Spirits Within recently, totally separately from us deciding to do an episode on video game movies. But Square set up a whole Square Pictures like production studio, like bought and built this enormous studio in Hawaii. And built like what at the time was an unprecedented render farm to like create this, totally realistic digital characters. And for the time, it was by far the best looking, realistic digital characters ever made for a movie. The main character in that movie was created to be a digital actress. The idea was that they would use the model of that actress in a number of different movies, not even necessarily Final Fantasy related.
Sort of like the Idol, the like pop Idol.
Kind of, yeah, like Hatsune Miku or something like that, but for a movie star, right? And the woman who played her was like set to play her and like voice her in every single movie that she was in. And then the movie was just a resounding fucking flop. It had a ballooned budget and totally failed. And so, the writing was on the wall there, but still, again, that's a movie. It might not be great, but like worth watching just for like the vision and kind of the breakthrough kind of shit that they were doing at the time. I really recommend it.
I was going to go back to Tomb Raider a little bit.
Yeah. Sure.
Is that like movies in this era, or maybe in general, some of them are just vehicles to sell more games.
Sure.
And like Tomb Raider is one of them where, Enoch, what's the IDOS?
IDOS, yeah.
Was like, we're coming out with new games, and Paramount is the distributor of this movie. And what Paramount also does to support Tomb Raider brand, they have the Tomb Raider ride at all of the Paramount amusement parks. This is amusement news for Chris McKeever. So there's a great Defunct Land video about the Tomb Raider ride at Kings Island, Paramount Kings Island, and like the amount of money that they spent on the Tomb Raider franchise, thinking that it would be a bigger franchise than it was, is like astronomical, like ridiculous of how good this ride is and the response to the franchise.
And the movies weren't total failures. Like the first one did decently well, enough to warrant a sequel. I think a lot of that was on the star power of like Angelina Jolie at the time. It was kind of the hottest actress in Hollywood at the time. And it was kind of in that era too, like the early 2000s era. Like I think of as like the Charlie's Angels era of movies, where it was just dumb, stupid, objectifying Hollywood shit. You know what I mean? Like, which it feels like eons ago, and then now like Me Too era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of entertainment wokeness. You know what I mean? But yeah, that era, like I can't separate from that kind of feeling. You know what I mean? Of big Hollywood blockbusters at the time.
Resident Evil.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. How many movies are in that movie
I
franchise?
think like 7.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember anything about them?
No, I've never seen a single one.
I haven't either. And
Yeah.
I was going to watch one for this episode because there's one available on Netflix. And then I
Is
looked
it
it
the
up,
newest
and
one?
it is the worst one, apparently, which
Yeah.
I think is also kind of saying something because they're all bad.
I've seen bits and pieces of all of them when they were on cable back
Right.
when I had was growing up and I had cable and I used to see little bits of it. It was edited and all the cuss words were taken out and everything. So I don't really know any of the plot in it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Mila Jovovich was in it, and then
Yeah.
her husband directed it, and it's Paul Anderson, but not the one that we all know.
Paul W.S. Anderson. The objectively bad Paul Anderson.
Dark Paul Anderson.
I mean, that is, that franchise has had like 6 or 7 movies.
They must
like,
make money.
Yeah, they make money, but it's kind of like also resigned to be the kind of like video game movie schlock that everybody has come to expect. I think that out of any video game franchise, Resident Evil definitely makes sense for a movie series. You know what I mean? Because like the games are so episodic and kind of random story wise, you know what I mean? So like just putting it in Raccoon City or in that world and just kind of using some of that stuff makes sense.
Yeah, the premise of Resident Evil is so simple.
Yeah.
And of course, it translates easy to cinema.
Yeah.
My favorite Resident Evil fact is about my friend Joanna, who owns a jewelry repair shop. And I met her at a party and we're like, oh, what's your favorite movie? Where some people are like, Schindler's List, Shawshank Redemption. She's like, Resident Evil 2 Apocalypse.
That's her favorite movie of all
That's her
time.
legit favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, everybody's got something, I guess.
And she was like, it's so fun. And there's like explosions. I was like, who the fuck are you?
I think we've
been friends ever since.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Uwe Boll. Do you guys remember that guy?
Yeah, he did Blood Rain.
So he did Blood Rain. I wrote it down on here. He did House of the Dead, Blood Rain, Alone in the Dark. I think he did a couple Postal movies as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's
based
some
on the
Postal
Postal games. Uwe Boll was like early 2000s schlock video game movie incarnate as a human being, basically. And he was like this German guy that no one had ever heard of. And like just made shitty video game movie after shitty video game movie. And I think that he's single-handedly responsible for the just deluge of shit that came out during that time, because it was like some of that stuff was like kind of popular, but not quite enough. And then it just like tainted the entire genre in Hollywood. And there's a great video you guys can check out. He like was so slammed by critics and he was such a troll that he like challenged them to a boxing match. And like a bunch of critics like flew out to Vancouver to like fight him in a boxing ring.
This is amazing.
And he kicked all of their asses. Because he's like a trained fighter and knows how to hurt people. And all these like armchair ain't it cool news like reviewers just got their fucking teeth kicked in. It's definitely worth looking up on YouTube. It's pretty funny. But yeah, Blood Rain is a really
I
bad
think
movie.
now I follow the conspiracy theory that he created all of those movies for one long con so he can beat up some critics.
Oh, he's an Andy Kaufman type figure.
Baby.
Yeah. Another movie that is similar in the 2000s era that works for cinema is Hitman. Was pretty good for what it was. It knew.
Yeah, you're right.
Like it fits into that. I mean, it was Timothy Olyphant, but it fits into that Jason Statham genre of but that genre of just pure action movie. It matches what the game was. It's fairly respectable to all of it.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job with that. There are like a few that have just gone under the radar, like the most recent Tomb Raider movie was like, for everything, I didn't see it. No, I don't think a lot of people saw it, but from everything I heard, it was pretty good.
Okay, yeah.
It was like female Indiana Jones. Is everything I heard.
Yeah, I could see that based on the new Tomb Raider games, especially.
Yeah, and that was definitely something that was based on that. But yeah, I think we can get into some topics and just kind of bring up more movies as we go on. Let's do it.
So one of the things I wanted to mention is that in addition, and we kind of talked about this, there are movies about video games and then, movies based on video games. And I think something like that. And the movies about video games are better, right? Like generally, like I think of like Wreck-It Ralph or some of those older movies I talked about, like where it's like using the ideas and you even mentioned this sort of games or movies that feel like games.
Yeah,
it's like another subgenre too.
I mean, I think that there's a few movies that like wouldn't exist if video games didn't exist. Like for instance, like obviously the big one I feel like is Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which was another famous bomb. Did not do well at the theater, but that movie is all about, it's set up like a fighting game, and it's like you fight different people and each fight gets increasingly hard, and it's clearly seeped in the culture of video games and it like uses that to its advantage. I think it's got Zelda music in it and it's got all this different kind of video game culture stuff. But at the same time, it's like the structure of the film is based around a video game. Another one is Edge of Tomorrow. You guys ever see that movie?
Yeah, I love that movie.
That movie's great.
What's the
Tom Cruise sci-fi movie where he has to repeat?
I see it, but they changed the title a couple of times.
It was originally called Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah.
Well, it's based off of a book or a manga, I think, called All You Need Is Kill, which is not a good title for a movie in the West. And so, it was called All You Need Is Kill at first, and then they changed it to Edge of Tomorrow, and then later, I think after the movie had even come out, they changed the name to Live, Die, Repeat, which was the tagline of the movie.
Yeah. It's a great movie.
It's a great movie, and I think the reason it feels like a video game is because it's essentially like a Groundhog Day type. Plot where it's like
where you play a really hard video game and you have to like memorize the patterns.
Yeah, exactly. It's like basically an alien species is invading Earth and these like soldiers are tasked with defeating them, and Tom Cruise always comes back to life after he's died and kind of learns from his past mistakes. And yeah, it's just like having a bunch of lives in a video game. Another one that I put on this list was the new Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker, just like felt like an RPG where you have to like get artifacts and like power up your system. Mandalorian is like that as well, where it's like you go on fetch quests and then you power up your armor and then you like can now take on bigger bads. It's like you find that video games so often are trying to emulate film, and it's like kind of a newer concept where movies are starting to emulate the format of video games, but it usually works out pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the movies that aren't directly just trying to take a video game property and paste it into a movie work better. And do you guys agree with that? I mean, I think everybody agrees with that generally.
I think so. Yeah.
I'll offer the rebuttal of Adam Sandler's Pixel.
Yeah, that's not anyone's fault but Adam Sandler, I think.
Josh Gad did bang Q*bert, so it is categorically a good movie.
But what did you guys think about Ready Player One? Did you guys see that movie?
I did. Yeah,
I did too. Yeah.
I really liked it.
It was all right.
Yeah.
I think, it was sort of, well, I have some criticisms of it, but yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a fever dream of like video game references
and
cameos.
like
just 80s pop culture references in general.
And I think in particular, like sort of teenage male ones. And I think that's where the criticisms that I'd heard that. Then when I watched it, it's like, oh, I can't unsee that. There's no like, equitable female, like, pop culture references in this movie. But anyway, that's another one that's decent. And I think it's worth mentioning when we're talking about like how there's no good video game movies. Like, I know we've talked about how like Rotten Tomatoes and all that kind of stuff is kind of shitty, the idea of it, but there's only 2 video game movies that are fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's Detective Pikachu and the Angry Birds movie 2.
Angry Birds 2.
Yeah, Angry Birds 2.
I will admit to having seen Angry Birds 2.
I have not either, but apparently it's one of the best video game movies.
How do you translate a smartphone game to a movie?
Well, I think, I think that brings up a really good point. I think there is no story to pull from the smartphone game, so they made up their own story.
That's a good point.
And I think that like...
It doesn't have the baggage.
Yeah, I think that's the reason that something like the Netflix anime Castlevania has done so well is that like they hired a really competent, really well-renowned writer in Warren Ellis, who is known for doing really good character-based stuff. He's somebody who hasn't even played the games, but they basically took Castlevania, which is so plot light. You know what I mean? Basically, the plot of Castlevania is Monster Hunter goes into a castle, kills Dracula. That's it. You know what I mean?
He's
That's
part of
basically
a
it.
family lineage. That's
Yeah. But then but then when you give that to a good writer who has a very loose idea, they can fill it with all their own stuff.
Totally.
You know, as long as you're respectful to the source material without one-to-one trying to adapt it, that's where something really good can come out of it. Like, there's no plot to develop from Angry Birds. But I'm sure they could come up with some fun ideas using pigs and birds.
And I think that's what they did of them being adversaries or whatever. And it makes me think of Trolls, which I don't know that y'all have seen, but I'm a huge fan of the movie Trolls. And you, on paper, you're like, fuck that. But like, it's the same thing because there's no story to these little dolls. They made up this and they got really good writing and really good music, and you know what I mean? And that was entertaining, you know?
So, like, as a patron of going to see this movie, I'm not entering the theater with some expectation of what I want it to be. Because there's no story, I'm just accepting the world that's given to me.
Yeah, I think so. It's a nice frame or narrative device that you can then extrapolate your own story from. I think that's probably the way to do it. I mean, the foil to that would obviously be Detective Pikachu. Right? Detective Pikachu is like a pretty accurate depiction of the game.
Well, I mean, they create their own narrative about that city and how it's different than the rest of the Pokemon world. But I really I'm a huge fan of Detective Pikachu. I had a blast on top of just being able to see my favorite characters in CGI and all this grandeur. It just really hit home for me. So that's my number one video game movie. With a bullet.
I thought Detective Pikachu was pretty fucking great. Yeah. I mean, it's like, we were saying this before I recorded, that I don't know necessarily that if there were no Pokemon in Detective Pikachu that I would give a shit about that mystery that's going on in that movie.
Yeah.
But as somebody that grew up with Pokemon, like, I was like kind of blown away by that movie. You know, just seeing the world of Pokemon realized in live action that was enough for me to really enjoy it. But on top of it, it had really good performances. It looked incredible. I thought like it was really competently shot, and the CG was amazing. I thought the Pokemon like fit perfectly in the world, even with the weird fur.
And the story doesn't waste time. It's just like, they're a Pokemon. They exist in the world. They don't try to explain it. They just show the world and the city of what it is, and this is regular life. Doesn't go into the origin or any of that.
It assumes that you already are aware of the franchise, you know, which is something you don't have to try to set it up for a wider audience, which inevitably is just going to disappoint your hardcore fans.
Right, and take up a lot of time and maybe be awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but Pokemon is so pervasive as a franchise that everyone has a general idea, so they don't have to do that legwork at the onset of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like why we don't. Hopefully won't get any more Joker origin movies. You know what I mean? Or Spider-Man origin movies, you know? Like we've had 3 incarnations of Spider-Man now. Like the newest Spider-Man films, like didn't even bother with an origin for him. You know, it was like, we've already seen it. But yeah, I think Detective Pikachu is really good. And I think that the success of the movie, both critically and commercially, will lead to like the Pokemon core movie that we have always wanted.
Jumping around a little bit, I think one area we haven't talked about at all is like documentaries. And there are a lot of really good video game documentaries. I imagine there might be some really bad ones too, but at least the popular ones that people talk about, like King of Kong.
I love King of Kong so much.
And I can't think of the name of it. There's that documentary about the Indies games where
it's Indie Game the movie.
Where they follow Fez and
I didn't really like that movie, but I liked what they were trying to do.
I liked it a lot, but
I thought it was okay. I thought that the documentarians were like trying really hard to like find drama where there was none, and kind of like
maybe that's why I kind of liked it, because there wasn't that much drama in it. Yeah, it was just kind of an interesting side of to see the inner workings of that.
I just felt like all the questions were like, what is the hardest, most terrible thing about your life? And it was like, all right, well, let me come up with something, I guess. But there's a great documentary about competitive NES Tetris called Ecstasy of Order the Tetris Masters. I would really recommend that movie. It's face level, it's about like NES Tetris tournaments, but then when you look more deeply into it, it's about like all the different kinds of people that can be gamers, and then also like what gaming does to your brain, and kind of like the whole kind of idea of the Tetris effect, where like you keep playing games in your head after you're done with them.
Oh.
It's a really interesting documentary. I would really check out Ecstasy of Order of the Tetris Masters.
Yeah, and then the Mario movie, we should probably talk a little bit about that,
The
right?
upcoming Mario movie?
That's coming out, I think they said 2021 or 2022. I can't remember. They
I
actually
think it
talked
might be
about
2022 at this point.
Yeah, which seems kind of far off. But that'll be really interesting to see, especially in light of, the Super Mario Bros. 93 movie. It's Illumination that's doing it.
It's crazy they're going with like a cyberpunk feel again.
They brought John Leguizamo
That
back.
having been said, though, visually, Detective Pikachu was really similar to the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I found odd. It's like got a lot of neon and like dark, wet
I can
see
streets
that.
and stuff like that.
Metallic and
It's very noir, Yeah.
And so obviously with it being Illumination, they're going animated this time around. And I mean, there's like an interesting discussion there, I suppose, of like live action versus animation and some of these, cause video games are not live action really, but some are more like it. But, would y'all have any thoughts or hopes for the Mario movie? Have we talked about that too much on the show already?
I wonder if the movie will take place only in the Mushroom Kingdom. Like
I think it will.
I hope so.
It won't be any of the real world cross pollination stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kind of tired of, and I'm anticipating that in the Sonic movie being an issue too, of like, anytime they take a property and try to make a movie out of it, they want to like bring it to our world.
Detective Pikachu kind of did that. I mean, it was set in the Pokemon world, but it was still Pokemon walking around in what looked like Manhattan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of the humor was like, what if a Pokemon was a bartender?
Yeah, exactly. right.
So I hope that it's just in the Mushroom Kingdom, or that
I think it will be,
or that if it's not, it's like origin of Mario getting sucked into the Mushroom Kingdom.
Well,
or something.
that's what the Super Mario Brothers movie is about. So
we don't want
chickens.
that. Yeah.
Maybe we can get into just a little bit before we kind of wrap up. Like, why is it, do you think, that A, video game movies are generally pretty bad, and B, they fail at the box office? Do you think that there's like an overarching reason?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at this. I mean, I think it's the same thing as people that, say, oh, I like the book better than the movie. This is the just transition of what the medium is that you're enjoying this platform with franchise or anything. Mm-hmm. It just, that translation effect is always will cheapen it, the source material in some way. Mm-hmm. And then so we've had this happen with Harry Potter, with Game of Thrones, constantly every year
compared to the source material.
So we naturally do that. I mean, you can only really enjoy it with source material, and that's why. I mean, with the Angry Birds, you can find success when it's kind of departing and becoming its own thing,
right? And I think the gameplay element too, right? Like when you read a book, it's kind of more like watching a movie than playing a game. I think when you're in control and it's your choices and you know what I mean? I wonder if there's some element there.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the Witcher series is a book first, but my complaint about the Netflix series was Geralt speaks like he does in the game, where it's very stoic and just, I'm looking for Yennefer. And then it does not work well for a show in any sense. Yeah.
Right. Like silent protagonist.
Yes. Yeah. And that show's definitely got mixed reviews from what I've heard as well. Like some people enjoy it, and then some people I've just heard have not liked that show at all.
I enjoyed the lore, and I mean, but it's not a good show in its own right.
Right. Do either of you have any thoughts?
I think I agree with you. What you're saying, Ryan, is that when you're going into a movie that's based on a book, you have like one source material. It might be the story or the characters from the book, but when you are going into a video game movie, you are thinking about the story. You're thinking about the gameplay. You're thinking about how the story shows the gameplay. Because I remember, like, when I watched Doom. When they had Doom, that FPS scene, I was like, "Oh hell yeah!"
That was the only good part of that movie.
Yeah, it was the only good part. But I waited so long to see that, and so maybe video games movies are so bad because the audience expects more of it because they want to see the gameplay. They want to see the story. They want to see the characters. There's more.
Well, I think
on
also
that
like video
checklist.
games are like a art form where you as the player have agency
Absolutely.
and are inserted into the story, and you get to not necessarily make your own decisions. Like it might be a linear game where there's not a lot of like changing the story, but regardless, like in Half-Life 2, like you can decide to like walk anywhere you want, look at anything and take your time. And like, and that's why I don't think they would ever really make a live action Zelda movie as much as people want it to happen. Is like, how do you take a silent protagonist that is meant to be the avatar of the player and then make that a compelling hero in a passive movie environment?
Yeah, I mean, bringing that up, I would like to see a video game movie that did like the Black Mirror thing, where it's a choose your own adventure,
like Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch.
I think
that could work.
I think that's the future of that. You know what I mean? There's a weird movies meeting video games.
Yeah,
in that
like
format, interactive TV and interactive fiction and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've seen movies bleed into games with like the walking simulators. So maybe the other side.
Yeah. More passive storytelling.
Yeah.
I was going to say one real quick thing to jump off of what you just said to agree with you is also like when you play a game, you identify with a character very strongly. I think it's the reason that people cosplay video game characters more than other mediums, because you fall in love with these characters because you are them in a sense. And so then when you go and you watch something and you're disconnected and it's like a story playing out, there might be something about that being
I definitely think so. I mean, that's why I didn't enjoy the movie Spy Hunter. But no, that's not why I didn't enjoy that movie. I think my kind of theory also, in addition to all those things, which I think are all good arguments, I think that it's also like when you introduce a game franchise to Hollywood, you just increase the number of cooks in the kitchen like tenfold.
Totally.
You know what I mean? It's like already for like any big Hollywood movie that's coming out, you're going to have, quarrels between producers. If you got a big star, they're going to want to have their own creative license on the movie. Then you've got your writers and your directors, and they might all have a different idea of what they want for the movie, famously with the Super Mario Brothers movie. But then with that movie as well, you have Nintendo of America, who like sold the rights to that movie for not that much so that they could maintain a semblance of creative control over it. And so when all of a sudden you've got like all these different people pulling everything in every single direction, you start to come up with this really bland end result that doesn't really take a stance in any one direction, So I think like the key to it is like maybe even adapting like some of these smaller games, with like less, huge $1 million budgets to like, the producers are going to have to make back, and they want to please everybody. So it just ends up being a total shit show.
No, it should be more of a niche market thing, because the super fans don't want to share it with everybody and watch it diluted. And it just doesn't work out the inversely either, as we've seen time and time again.
I'm just waiting for video game movies to have their like superhero renaissance.
Right.
Moment,
I think,
cause like superhero movies in the early 2000s, late 90s were in the same fucking boat.
Yeah.
Most of them were bad.
It's people trying to make money off of an IP rather than like lovingly do it. And I think that's what it's going to take, right? Is for games to be big enough that like somebody's like, well, we better do this right. Not just do a cash
You need
grab.
like a Kevin Feige as well. Like the guy who oversees like all the Marvel movie stuff. It's like, he's got like a vision for the entire thing. You know what I mean? And he loves the source material, and that's why those movies do so well, is they feel authentic, and then they also are fun. And he's just a good producer, and he knows how to hire the right people. And I think like having somebody steer the ship in the right direction, I'm always crossing my fingers for a Smash Brothers cinematic universe, maybe the Sonic movie, Detective Pikachu, Mario, upcoming Mega Man movie, they can all cross over. I think that would be fucking lit. I keep trying to tell people.
Byleth movie.
There'd be just 5 years of Fire Emblem movies that you have to wait for your character.
Oh, I do think we'll be getting a Fire Emblem anime.
I think a Fire Emblem would be a good movie, actually.
I know. I
can see that.
fit to it.
Because
It'll be better than Assassin's Creed, man. Did you see that piece of shit?
Or Prince of Persia.
Prince of Persia
so
too.
bad.
Dude, we could talk forever about all the bad video game movies, but yeah, I think that video game movies will eventually become a respected subgenre of movies. I think people that grew up with video games are getting older and are
Yeah.
going to be starting getting into Hollywood. I know when I was a kid, I had dreams as a filmmaker of like wanting to direct a Pokemon movie. And now I see a live action Pokemon movie out there and I'm like, we're maybe finally there.
Yeah.
So hopefully Sonic is an A+ cinema score and we can all go home happy. But we'll certainly see, won't we? On Sunday at 7 p.m. at Alamo Draft House.
Sweet. I think that does it for our video game movie discussion. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back to talk about what we've been playing recently. And we're back. And this is the part of the show where we talk about the games we've been playing this week. I have been playing more Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Oh, really?
Again.
Did you start another route?
I bought the DLC.
Okay.
So which has the fourth wave has not actually come out. It comes out like in a week. But I saved the game. I don't want to spoil this, but like there's a major choice in one of the routes. And I saved the game right before I made that choice. So I just took that save file and I'm going to play through the other way, the other choice.
Gotcha.
And I started doing that because I'm going to save another like full playthrough for when the DLC comes out.
That makes sense. Because I guess at that point in the story,
Right,
you would
it's
have
too
already
late.
passed the DLC.
And I'm not the person that's going to play this game from scratch 4 times.
Yeah.
But I will do it 2.5.
2.5. That's pretty close to 4, Patrick. You might find after your 2.5 playthrough, you're ready for 2 more.
So honestly, that's probably the only like interesting or new thing I've been playing. I guess just.
Do you know what house you're going to go with on your second full playthrough?
Yes, I'm going to do the Blue Lions.
Okay, cool.
Because I know the least about that one.
Yeah.
I am like super close to getting into Elite Smash, y'all. That's the only other thing. Like I'm sitting there at like 6.1 something million.
You'll make it.
With Piranha Plant?
With Piranha Plant.
Oh yeah, dog.
Once I do that, then I can let go of it and just get better again. But
And then you can do it all over again with Byleth.
yeah, exactly. So that's really all I've been doing.
I'll go next. I've been playing a little bit of Slay the Spire recently. There's an update with a new character coming out. So I've been trying to kind of get my sea legs back and playing that game again. Y'all, that game is so fun. If you haven't played Slay the Spire, check it out. It's such a fun pick up and play game. You can like do other shit and like talk to people while you're playing, and it's still a blast.
That's
Love
a
that
free
game.
update?
Yeah, it'll be a free update with the new character. It's already out for PC and it's coming out for consoles, like I think by the end of this month. In addition to that, I've been playing a little bit more Kunai. I'm pretty much at the end of the game. And I'm loving it. It gets really, really hard at the end of the game, though, and I've actually had to like put the game down and walk away for a little bit. It's like a big gauntlet of shit. Like at the very end of the game, like kind of using all the skills that you've learned up to that point, and I'm like not quite ready with my current anger levels to complete that game. So like I like almost broke a Pro Controller. I think we're doing all right. It gets challenging, is what I'm saying. It's an easy, accessible game up until the very end where it starts to become a real challenge. Not unfair. I'm just not good at video games. Other than that, the new game that I've been playing this week is a really cool new gameplay experience called Picross Lord of the Nazaric. Yes, this is exactly what it sounds like. It is a Picross game that is a tie-in for the anime Overlord, which I've never watched. But I really wanted a new Picross game and it was on sale. So I picked it up.
Is that published by Nintendo?
It's published by, I don't know if it's published by Nintendo, but it's developed by Jupiter, who does the other Picross S games.
Okay.
So it's like actually good. It's basically exactly the same, except all the puzzles are like little trinkets, like from the anime or like anime girl faces.
Oh, weird.
And, it's weird. And then I like watched an episode of the show to like see what the show was like after having played this game, and it's super horny. That's not what
Do you feel dirty for playing this game?
No. Because it's Picross, man.
So confident.
It's great. It was between this and then one where it's all like chibi, like mouse anime girls, and I was like, I'm gonna go for the one that has like the manly skeleton dude instead of like the like chibi like Lolita fucking anime girls. And I was like, you know what? I think this might be a little bit better. So, but anyway, you know what? I'm enjoying it. It's on sale right now. It's part of that eShop sale. If you're a fan of Overlord or you want to get into Lord of the Nazarick, pick up Picross Lord of the Nazarick.
I'm going to guess it's not published by Nintendo. Once you told me that, that's probably Jupiter that published it.
Any of you guys?
Yeah. So my December and January was all Pokemon in preparation for the Dallas video game championships for Pokemon.
That's right. You went to that.
Yeah, no, had a good time. But now I am like in Pokemon hangover.
Right.
I mean, it's a great game. I can talk about it for hours and hours and hours, but needed something different. And
I'm in that same boat with Tetris 99.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
So Witcher 3 is filling that void for me. The Netflix series actually got me into it. Not that I really enjoyed it, but it was a good primer on the lore of the game so that I can jump into 3, know who the characters are, and then now really actually fully enjoy the game.
Cool.
I've been waiting for years to do it. Switch was my jumping back into gaming.
Yeah.
So like from Wii. So I've missed out on all these consoles. I've always had a Mac, so I couldn't really PC game in any sense.
Oh, okay.
So I've been waiting for Witcher for a while, and now I finally have it.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How far are you into the game?
I'm about, I would say 15 hours in it.
Okay.
I mean, I have no idea how much more there is, but
only 175 more hours.
Up to you.
No, I'm doing more just walking around doing side quests than the main and main course, and doing essentially what I would do in Breath of the Wild. So it's good to fill that void.
Oh yeah. I hear Witcher 3 side quests are the best in the biz.
Very entertaining, huge plot lines in its own right that your choices influence, kind of like Fable, if you remember the old, which I loved back in the day. So it's really good to me.
Nice.
Matt?
What up? I've been playing Kunai.
Nice.
I probably got maybe 75 minutes into Kunai, and it's really good.
So good.
It's a lot harder than I remember playing on the PAX show floor.
Yeah. Well, it was like a demo, you know?
Yeah, because it's like maybe 3 or 4 hit death.
Uh-huh. Well, and there's some enemies too where they'll explode and then take away like half your health.
Yeah.
Like really fast. Too.
What's the saving like? You know what I mean?
It looks like Metroid. There are like save points or save rooms.
But any pickups that you pick up, if you die, you still have those pickups. So you could still like buy upgrades even if you die. You don't like lose all the stuff that you progressed with.
Yeah, I'm really liking Kunai. It's definitely a game that I can like play for 30 minutes and then like put it down and pick it back up the next day.
Yeah, it's definitely destined to become like a hidden indie gem on the Switch.
Yeah,
like,
I think so too.
It kind of came out. I can't think of a better time for it to come out than right now. There's a bit of a drought, but it's like still I'm worried it's going to get buried, and like it doesn't deserve to. I mean, I think there's just a lot of pixel Metroidvanias on the Switch.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's
but like
against it.
But this one really stands out. Like it's an actually like very good game, and there's a few people like on YouTube really singing its praises, really trying to get people out there to watch it and play it. But
the movement in Kunai is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so fun. That's the point.
I can just swing around and like grab onto shit and like do tricks and shit like that forever. That game is so fun.
I've also picked up and finished 1980X. Are you familiar with this game?
I wanted to get that. It's like a story-driven game.
Yeah,
right?
it's
is that new?
It is new.
Yeah.
It's new on the Switch. It started as a Kickstarter a couple of years ago, and it came out. It's been on PC, so it's only like maybe $10.
Did you play it on the Switch?
I played it on PC.
Yeah.
But if you are an 80s kid who spent any time in the arcade, you have to play this.
Right.
Because it's a coming of age tale of like a kid who doesn't really have a friend group, and he finds a friend group amongst like all of the misfits at the arcade in the 80s, and you learn about his story through the different games of the 80s, specifically the genres of games. So you start out with a brawler like Final Fight.
Right. There's like an outrun style game.
There's like an outrun racing game, Arcade Racer, and there's a story that happens in the background while you're playing. And so it goes through, it's like a love letter of gaming as a genre to use it to tell a story. So there's brawlers,
so you
like
play
outrun.
those?
You play those, yeah. And
That's cool.
There's like a shoot 'em up, like a shmup, like Raiden, and then a ninja side scroller, like
Yeah,
Shinobi.
right. Yeah, it's got a great kind of like pixely, like sort of like almost like cyberpunk, like very neon 80s aesthetic. It's really cool, really good looking game.
Got a great aesthetic. It's got a great soundtrack, and the story is really good. It's a very short game, maybe just under 2 hours.
Right.
But it's a very nice love letter to the 80s and gaming in general. So
Yeah.
I would
That's
say
cool.
pick it up.
Yeah,
I might have to check that out.
for sure.
Awesome. Well, I think that about does it then.
I think that does it for the show. Thank you so
right.
much, Ryan, for
Hey,
being
thanks for
on the
having me.
episode.
Thank you for being here.
Did you have a good
Ryan.
time?
I had a great time.
Oh, that's great
Yeah.
to hear.
Thanks to Cody for doing the music. To Corduroy, that is. Apologies to Chris McKeever for not playing Disney Tsum Tsum Festival.
Well, I'm not playing it because they called me a 12-year-old.
Yeah, dude, that statement that you made is going to set us back playing that game at least 2 months.
Hopefully, as we've said every week, next week we'll talk about a direct.
I goddamn hope so. We have nothing planned, so.
If you want to find me, Patrick, on the internet, I'm PDYX.
I Matthew MATHYOU on Twitter.
I am at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Ryan?
I'm at RYN Upchurch on Twitter.
Very
Nice.
good.
Yeah.
Very good. Check us out. We all got projects going on. We all got lives. We all got love. I don't know what I'm talking
We all
about.
got human bodies.
But ladies and gentlemen, that does it for our show. Thank you so much. If you want to check out the podcast on our social, we are Super Switch Headz on Twitter Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We are at Switch Headz on Twitter. Again, reminder, we're going to have a big meetup and Switch Killer Queen and Smash Party followed up with a Super Switch Headz Sonic screening at Alamo Drafthouse Mueller this Sunday at 7 p.m. I hope you guys can make it out. And if you can't make it out, then go fuck yourself. No, I'm just kidding. But that does it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening every single week. We love you. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.